Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this wire woven bracelet. And this is what it looks like. So it's lots of lengths of wires woven together, but then you have a colour in there to break it up. So if you want to learn how to make that, then keep watching. And here are the things that you'll need. You'll need a couple of pliers for this. You'll obviously need a wire cutter to cut your wire, and then a flat nose plier. And then you'll need your wire. In this case I find that it works best working with 0.6mm wire, and that equals a 22 gauge. And this is a silver colour. You can obviously choose whatever colours you want to use. And then as the accent colour, in this case I'm using a blue. In the intro one I used a black, but you can obviously choose to use whatever you want. And then I'm going to be using some insulation tape to help hold it all together. So get your things together and then let's get started. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to get all your wire ready. So that means cutting all your lengths of your both colours if that's what you're using. And then in my case I have the base colour as my silver, and then the accent colour is the blue. Of the silver one you need 25 lengths, and of the blue you only need 5. And each of these, they all need to be the same length, and they need to be roughly around 35 centimeters. So the first thing we need to do is we need to start setting up all our wires, and for this we're going to be using the insulation tape. So I'm going to cut off a small piece, and then I'm going to grab, to start off with, I'm going to grab 3 of my silver wires, and then what we need to do is start lining them all up. So first set I have is the 3 silver wires, and you want to lay them so they lay side by side like this, and then you want to put some tape around to hold them into place. When you put your tape around, you want to make sure you just have a little bit of your tail left at the top, and then just secure the tape in place. This is why you don't need to use very long lengths of the tape. It's just to hold it nice and secure and fastened while we're working with it. Like so. So that's your first set. So now I'm going to just get another piece of tape and get that ready. So I just put that at the back of this, roughly in the same area. And now we need to get out 2 of our silver wires and 1 of our coloured wire. And we now need to line these up, and the pattern that I've done is, in this set with these 3 wires, I've put the coloured in the middle, in between the silver. So they lie like so, again flat next to each other. And then what we want to do is place them next to the other ones. Again with roughly the same tail sticking out of the top. Make sure they stay where you want them to stay. So the coloured one lies in the middle. Like so. And then we just wrap the tape around this, so we hold this section in place. Like so. Be careful when you're doing this, you don't want to be pulling on your wires out because they'll come out of the tape. That's why I'll show you in a bit when we're done putting them all in place why we're leaving these tails. So we do the same thing again. Get your piece of tape ready. And then you want to get 3 silver colours wires out again. That's the next step. Line them up next to each other. So the lie flat. And then place them on the tape, right next to the others. Like so. And again, fold the tape around to keep them in place. And we just continue like this, putting the tape in place. Getting the next wires out, 2 silver ones and 1 coloured. Line them up with a coloured one in the middle, like so, and then place them into place. Like that. Fold the tape around so it's nice and secure. And we just continue like this until we run out of wires, alternating between the sets with and without the colour. So just continue. You can make it however wide you want to make it. You can use more wires as well if you want to. It's completely up to you. So do that and then I'll show you what to do next. So I've now set up all my wires in the pattern and the order that I want them to be. And I use the tape and we have a little bit sticking out on the other side. So what we need to do with that is we need to get some flat nose pliers, because this is going to help when you're going to be working with it. Because if you just started working with it now, chances are the wires will probably pull out. Because even though the tape is holding them, you can still pull them through. So what I just do is bend over the very tips, just like this, all of them. And then try and squeeze them a bit if you can, because this will stop them from pulling out through the tape, because they're kind of almost grabbing onto the tape, like so. As you can see, can't pull them out now. So that's now secured in place and we're ready to start actually weave the wire together. So the weave itself that I'm using is actually quite simple. It's just making sure that you keep the wires in place and you keep them where they need to be. And the first part, just starting it off, is the most difficult. But once you get going, it gets a lot easier. So remember that you have your wires in groups of 3, and that's how they're going to stay. So what we do is we grab the first group. It doesn't matter what side you do it from. It's completely what you feel most comfortable with. And then we want to start weaving in between all the other groups. So you go over the first one. Make sure you always grab your groups of 3. And when you're doing it, just try and make sure to keep the wires in place as well. So say with the coloured ones, always make sure that the coloured one is in the middle. So we go over the first one, underneath the next one, start pulling this, the first set of wires, over a little bit more, and grab the next set. Make sure the coloured one is in the middle, like so. We need to go over that one. As you can see, the first part is a little bit fiddly, but once you get this first one done, it becomes a lot easier. And then the next one, we need to go underneath. The next one, we have to go above. And don't pull anything tight yet, we just need to make sure everything's in place before we do that. The next one, the next set of 3, underneath that again. And then the next one is with a coloured one. Keep the colour in the middle. As you can see, if you hadn't bent your wires back at the top, a lot of the wires would have probably been pulled out by now because you're working with them. So that's why that little trick just helps quite a lot. Next set, you need to go underneath, and then the last one we come out on top like so. And then just check and make sure everything lies the way it needs to lie. So all your coloured wires are in the middle of their set and nothing is crossing over too much. I have one that's a bit temperamental here, like so. Try and flatten them out, make sure everything is in place, like so. And then I'm going to pull this up a bit, make sure obviously these 3 wires are nice and flat and even as well. Like so. So then we need to start on our next row. So we'll leave it like this for now. And still it's going to be a little bit fiddly because until you've done like about the first 2 rows, it's going to become a lot better and easier. So we go back to the beginning, to the same side. You always start from the same side. In this case, it's going to be one with the colour in. And then you want to start weaving that across. And you want to do it in the exact same way. Make sure everything is in place. So this one, you want to take it over the first one. So your first set of 3, like so, and then get your next set coming from below the previous wire. You need to go under them, like so. And then again, above the next set. And then grab the next set below. Because now you can probably see that from now on, because everything is basically split into the sections now, it's going to be a lot easier to weave. Because you don't have to sort your wires out as much as you do in the beginning. Grab the next set of 3 above that. Next set with the colour, we need to go below that, like so. Then above the next set, keep an eye on the actual set of wires that you're weaving with as well, that they stay in place. So the next set, and then below the last coloured set, just get that colour into place. Like so. And pull that. And then we're now left with this. So just try and pull your weaving wires tight and push them up as much as they will go, because this is going to be quite a closed weave. And then we want to bring down the very first set of wire you weave with, and they are going to be coming underneath this one. So you just keep hold of it and then gently bend it down, like so. So it comes down and lies right next to the other ones and becomes part of the weave. And then try and pull everything tight. So there you've basically started off your weave. So we now need to continue this exact same way. Go back to the beginning, leave this out to the side for now. Back to the beginning, the very first set, bring it across above the first set, and then we need to go below the next one. So we'll continue doing the exact same thing. So the actual weave is not really that difficult. It's just obviously keeping track of all your wires and keeping them in place. That's the important bit. Next one above. Don't worry too much about them loosening up just a little bit now, because you tighten that back up before you move on. And as you keep going, then when you've done a few, the previous ones will stay tight. So as you can see, you're just going over, under, over, under, over, under. Starting with a new one, over, under, over, under, over, under. So that's all there is to it really. Quite a simple weave. And that's the last one from the very first weave we did. Bring that over. Just make sure it's nice and tight. Tighten this one. And then tighten the bottom one. And then we want to bring this one down. The previous weaving set. Like so. Underneath again. And you now have this. So you can see the whole thing is starting to form now. And you continue, go back to the beginning, grab the next set, go above the first set, and just make sure you pull everything tight, and it will find its natural place where it's going to sit and become a nice and tight weave. So over, under, over, under. Just going to catch my coloured wire before I get too much further. Get it into position. Like so. So as you can see, it doesn't matter that they kind of do lose position, as long as you catch it and then put them back into position. Under the next one, over that, and then under the last one, which was the one we just bent down previously. Double check everything is still in place. So pull the previous one tight first, and then pull the one you just used tight. Like so. And then back to needing to bend this down to bring it back into the weave. Like so. So that's all there is to it. You continue until you either run out of wire or you reach the length that you need it to be. So do that, and then I'll show you what to do next. So I've now continued weaving my wire right until I've run out. And then obviously now we need to finish off the end so we can actually turn it into a bracelet. One thing I will say, a little tip, if you plan on making more than one of them, I suggest that you work with longer lengths of wire and make a long piece and cut them up instead of just making several smaller ones, because you'll have a lot less wastage that way. So then I'm going to show you how to finish off the ends. So the way that we're going to do that is you need to start on one end, and we obviously want to get rid of this end with the tape and that until we have a point where the actual weave starts off nicely. And then you want to get your wire cutters out, and then all you do is just work your way across, cutting your wires. Just do a few at a time. And try and do a straight line across if you can. You can always come in from the other side. It's going to be a little bit trickier to get your wire cutters through because you have several layers of wire. But just work your way through it, like so. So we now have this end finished off nice and straight. And then what we need to do is determine how long we need it to be so we can cut off the other end. So all I'm going to do is get out a measuring tape and then start with the end where I just cut it off, and then just determine how long I want it to be. And say if you want a 7 or a 7.5 inch bracelet, you obviously want to cut it off around that area, but you want to keep in mind that you need to leave space for the clasp that you'll be using. So maybe take about ½ an inch less or so than what you want it to be. So I've now cut off the length that I'm going to be using, and don't worry about the ends coming undone or unraveling or anything, because obviously because it's wire it's going to stay where you put it. It's only if you bend the ends or anything, but try and avoid that. So we have the piece ready, and then now what we're going to do to finish off the ends, we need to get out some ribbon ends to look like this. And you just need to make sure you get some that fits the right size width-wise, because you don't want it to be too large so it sticks out too much, but also not too small because you want it to be able to cover the whole thing. So this size is pretty perfect for this specific bracelet, and then I'll show you how to attach that now. So the first thing I do is, before I put on the ribbon end, I like to just roughen up the ends, because I think it makes it a lot more secure, because you're going to be putting glue in the ribbon ends, and if you just put your wire in like this and put glue, it might hold alright, but I think you just, at least over time, be able to just pull out the wires. So I like to just roughen them up so the glue has something to grip onto. It makes it a lot stronger. So all you do is get out your flat nose pliers, and then you just go in and grab your wire just a bit at a time, 1 or 2 at a time, just the very end, like 1 or 2 millimeters or so, and just bend them. The outer ones I always bend inwards. but then otherwise the rest I just bend them back and forth, crossing over. Like I said, it is literally just to roughen up the wire. To make sure that it makes it extra secure so the glue has something to grip onto. Something roughly like this. And you can always just test it and see if it will sit nicely. Otherwise, adjust anything you need to adjust. And just go and flatten it down. Like so. And of course you want to do that on both ends. So now what we want to do is get out the ribbon end. And then we also need some glue. In this case I'm using some E6000. I generally use this for this kind of thing a lot because it's really strong and it dries clear and it stays a little bit flexible but still really strong. So I do recommend using this glue for this. And I normally just take a toothpick because you can't really go in straight from the tube because you need to get the glue inside the ribbon end basically. And I just go over with the glue all around the sides. You don't want too much, just do a little layer. Take a little glue at a time, you can always add more. Just cover the sides and the bottom. Because if you put too much glue inside, it's going to come spilling out when you close it. And I want to try and avoid that. And then what I do as well, just for the extra security, is I like to just put some glue on the actual end of your wires as well. And try and get it right in there in between all the wires that you've roughed up. Again, not too much. Also this will help then your wires grip a bit more to the actual ribbon end. So just a little bit in between all the nooks and crannies of your wire. So roughly like this, it's going to be fine. And then what we need to do is just place our ribbon end onto the end, like so. Make sure you place it where you want it to sit. And then you get your flat nose pliers out. Hold on to your ribbon end best as you can to keep it in place, and you start squeezing it down. Don't just go in on one side and squeeze it all the way down. Do it gently a bit at a time, moving across back and forth. And then make sure you check that it's still where you want it to be, because while it's still not 100% flattened, you've still got a bit of time to move it into the right position. So check one last time if you're happy, and squeeze it all the way down so it's nice and tight. Make sure you do it right out at the ends and the sides as well, like so. And I normally just come in from the other side so those teeth that you have on the ribbon ends can grab onto the wire as good as possible as well, like so. And that's your ribbon end attached. And then of course you do the exact same thing on the other end. So I've now attached the ribbon ends in both ends, and then what you need to do now, you can either do it now before you attach your clasp and that, or do it after, whichever, but then you need to start forming it into the shape of a bracelet. Now what you can do is use something to form it around if you have something that you think might work. Otherwise, just do it with your hands. You just do a bit at a time. Just do it gently. Get that rounded shape. And just work it just a bit at a time. And don't worry about doing this, your wire's not going to break. And by doing it like this, just working it back and forth gradually, more and more, that's how you're going to get the best shape, by doing it by hand. Because you don't want to just go in the middle and bend it a lot. That's going to more likely take it out of shape. Because with it being a bracelet, you want it to be kind of rounded and a bit oval as well. So you don't want any sharp bends or anything. So as you can see, it's starting to take shape. And just go with the specific places that you need to just bend it a bit more. Now we're almost there. I think that's pretty good, because then you have that space left where you're going to attach your jump rings and your clasp. So you need it just to be that little space left. You can push it a bit more if you want to. Obviously push it so it fits the size that you need it to be. And then you just go over it, make sure everything is how you want it to be, and you just attach your jump rings and your clasp, and I normally use an extender chain as well, so that if it's not quite the right size, you can still then mould it after, because you then have an extender chain on. You have that option as well. So that's pretty much done now. All I need to do is attach the clasp, but that's all there is to it. So that's how you make this bracelet. That's why I work bracelet. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this open wire woven bracelet. And this is what it looks like. So as you can see, it's woven, but because we're working with wire, we can achieve this open effect of the weave. And what I've added as well is, into some of the pieces I've added some twisted lengths of wire to give it a little bit of an accent.